Hi friends, welcome back to Labor Laws lecture series, and we are discussing Payment of Wages Act in Unit 5. In the earlier video we discussed definitions, and in this particular video we will talk about deduction. But before we get into a detailed discussion on deductions, let us look into a rules for payment of wages. Okay, what does it mean? Who is responsible for making the payment of wages? Who is responsible? Okay, and then what is the interval period for this? What are the form that wages should be made? All these things are discussed in section 3 to section 6. Section 7 onwards talks about deductions and the rules related to deductions. Okay, first we will see in brief about section 3 and section 3 to section 6, and then we will discuss other law related to deductions. Section 3 talks about who is responsible for payment of wages. Generally, employer is responsible for the payment, but normally employer delegates his work, correct? Employer delegates his work to some other employees, like as a manager, right? So then manager will become responsible. Okay, so we see different kinds of businesses like factories or a railway administration, whatever we discussed earlier. So let's see, in case of factories, manager is responsible for making the payment. Okay, making the payment of wages, manager is responsible in case of factories. This was held in the case of Chiranjit Lal Modi versus Chakravarti. At the same time, if a manager resigns from the company, or if he is dead, or he is removed, in that case, that the responsibility of payment of wages becomes the responsibility of the employer. Okay, if manager dies, or he is resigned from the job, or he got terminated, in all these cases, if a new manager is not appointed, then it is a responsibility of the employer to make payment of wages. And in case of industry and other establishments, here the supervisor will be responsible for making the payment of wages. This supervisor will be named by whom? Employer. Employer names some supervisor who is responsible for it. In case of railways, person nominated by the railway administration. Any person who is got nominated by a railway administration for processing the payment will be responsible for it. Again, in case of contract, any authorized person, or in case of others also authorized persons. So they all are responsible for making the payment of wages. Okay, and now we will discuss in brief about section 4, 5 and 6. Section 4 talks about fixation of a wage period. Okay, so wage period, right? It can be employer can make a payment on any day, but the period for the two consecutive payments should not the time between two consecutive payments should not exceed 1 month. Okay, what is that? Employer can make payment every 15 days once, or a weekly payment. You might have heard weekly payment every Saturday. The workers get a salary or a wages in a construction site, right? So any wage period can be a weekly or 15 days, but maximum is 1 month. Okay, the maximum period allowed is 1 month. The person cannot say that, the employer cannot say that I will pay salary every 2 months once. This is not allowed. 1 month is allowed, 15 days is allowed, weekly is allowed, but the maximum is 1 month. More than that is not allowed. And then time of payment of a wages. According to this section 5, all the payments should be made 10th or a 7th day of the wage period. The 10th day of the wage period, like for example, if your wage period is 1 to 30th of every month, like say it is April, and this payment should be done before 10th May or 7th May based on the companies, based on the type of company they are in. Okay, so the salary should be paid before 10th or 7th day of the wage period. In case of termination, if employee get terminated because of some reasons, the amount should be paid within 2 days. Note this point, the amount should be paid within 2 days if in case of termination of an employee. Employer can seek some exceptions, like if it is a 10th, instead of that they may want to make a payment on 15th. So they have to take a exceptional approval from the government before making that kind of provision. And all the wages shall be paid on working day. What does it mean? Okay, 1 to 30th is my period, right? The salary should be paid within 10th of a next month, right? This is what we discussed. Assume for the time being it is a 10th. 10th of a next month, if it is falling on Sunday, then it should be paid on the 9th, Saturday. If Saturday is also a holiday, then it should be paid on 8th. Okay, it is not that it can be processed on 11th. No, it always be earliest working day they have to make a payment. Clear? And now moving to section 6, time of payment of wages. It is a not time here, type. Okay, the type of payment of wages. All wages should be in national currency, either cash or coin, and kinds are not accepted. Kinds, payment of wages in kind is not accepted. A employer cannot say that I will pay you, I will give you 20 kgs of rice instead of 1000 rupees. So this is not accepted. Okay, payment of wages in kind is not permitted. I hope you guys are clear with the rules related to payment of wages. Payment of wages, who is responsible for it, we discussed in section 3. And then fixation of wage period, we saw that it should not exceed 1 month. And then we saw the payment of time of payment of wages is 10th or a 7th day of the wage period. And then type of wages is always be in currency, and then kind is not accepted, and the preferred mode of making a payment is banking. Let's see the most important sections of a Payment of Wages Act 1936, section 7 to section 13. Section 7 to section 13 deals with deductions from the payment. What all are the permissible deductions from the wages? Okay, first section, section 7. Okay, section 7 is broken into a 3 parts. Section 7.1, which talks about what is the deductions and other thing, basic thing, and section 7.2 talks about deductions, and then section 7.3 is about section 7.7 subsection 3 talks about limits, how much the maximum amount that employer can deduct as a deduction. Okay, so let's see section 7.1 on a basics of deductions. Section 7 clearly states that employer should not deduct any other deduction items except those authorized by under the Payment of Wages Act given in section 7.2. Okay, so employer should not deduct any other deductions other than mentioned in section 7 subsection 2 of this act. Okay, even if employee says that please deduct this additional amount from the salary, then also employer should not deduct it. So remember this particular point. It is very important. Deductions given in section 7 subsection 2 is the exhaustive list of deductions. Other than that, employer should not consider any other deductions. So this was held in the case of Hindustan General Limited versus Govindram. So anything outside the list is not liable to deduction. Very clear? Employee goes and says, sir, I purchased a TV from Flipkart. You make a payment to a Flipkart, no, and deduct it from salary. Is this allowed? No. So this kind of deductions are not permitted. Whatever is there in section 7 and subsection 2 is the final one. And then Union of India versus Triloknath. In this case also, where employer agreed to deduct some deductions which are not authorized under this act, then it was decided that this deduction is null and void. Okay, so the last point, the last important point, any payment made by employee to employer also be considered as deductions. Okay, normally so far what we understood, there will be a salary, like in salary, earnings from employee, and then there will be deductions, right? If he is earned 10,000 and there might be a deduction of 2,000, and employee gets 8,000 into bank account, correct? This is what we understood. And this deduction should not be other than sections, the items mentioned in section 7 subsection 2. Okay, but after paying the salary, if employer says, boss, you pay another 3,000 towards fine, and employee pays rupees 3,000 as fine. So it is not a deduction here, right? But employee is paying it because employer asked for it. From the act perspective, even if employee makes a payment, that will also be considered as deduction. So this point is added just because that employer will not deduct from the salary at the beginning, but after that he forces employee to make some payments. So to avoid that, this point is added. Any payment made by employee to employer also be considered as deduction. And now these are the cases where will not these actions will not be considered as deductions. Okay, these actions will not be considered deductions. What all are those? If it is a penalties in the form of withholding the increment. Withholding the increment. What does it mean? If by every year employees will get some hike in a salary, right? Because of the penalty or a punishment, employer says we will not give any hike to you because of this wrongdoing and performance. Okay, this will not be considered as deduction. Withholding the promotion. So after 3 years or 2 years of working, employee may get some promotions, right? If promotion is not giving, then that will also not considered as deduction. Okay, not giving promotion, withholding increment, all these are not deductions. Deductions is only from a salaries of a employee. Okay, and then reduction to a lower post or a lower scale. In every organization there will be hierarchy, right? The worker, senior worker, officer, junior officer, senior officer, manager, senior manager, general manager, right? If a person who is in a junior officer, if he got demoted to senior worker, okay, in this case he cannot say that it is a deduction. Okay, this is just a punishment or a penalty. Okay, penalty or a punishment because of performance. This will not be considered as deduction. And suspension from the job itself. Instead of holding increments or a promotion or not giving or reducing the lower scale, but if person got terminated because of the poor performance or some false activities, even in that case, that will not be considered as deduction. Deductions are always with respect to the salary and the amount. These all are not considered as deductions. Right? Section 7.1 is having two components. First component says that every deductions other than mentioned in section 7 subsection 2 are not valid. We discussed 2 case studies there, and certain penalties or strict actions taken against employees are not considered a deduction, like withholding of increment or promotion, reduction to lower post or scales, and suspension. Okay, let's look into the kinds of deductions which are permissible under section 7(2). These all are the permissible deduction under section 7 subsection 2. Okay, few of these things we discuss in detail in a subsequent other sections. Okay, one is fines for wrongdoing. Then employee, if does anything wrong, then employer can deduct some fines. Deduction from an absence of duty. If employee is absent without informing to the employer, this absent is beyond the permissible leaves, holidays, etc. After that, if employee is on leave, employee goes on an absent, then it can be deducted. And third case, any damages or a loss directly attributable to employees neglect and default. Okay, if anything, right, if a laptop is given to employee and if he breaks it down at a home after a time of playing on that, then that will be directly deducted from employee's salary. Deduction for house accommodation. Okay, deduction for house accommodation. If employer is giving a housing accommodation, for that the rent can be deducted. Deduction for amenities or services. If employer is supplying water, electricity, etc. to the employee, then they can deduct for that. Deduction for recovery of advances. If employer has given salary advances to meet some special expenses like medical, daughter's marriage, etc. So it is a salary advance which will be deducted immediately next month generally. So it is a salary advance, so that can be recovered. Deduction for recover of loans from employer. Apart from this advance is a very short period thing. Otherwise the loan is basically for a longer term, like it is for a housing loan or vehicle loan, etc. These loans will also be, the EMI against these loans can also be deducted. Funds constituted for labor welfare. When there is a labor unions in a company, there might be a need of paying X amount every month, like 25 rupees or 30 rupees, or there might be a labor welfare fund where every employee contributes X amount every month, and that will be utilized for the purpose of illness or a medical benefits of an employee or their families. So that can also be considered. Deduction of loan for house building or schemes approved by the central government. If employee has taken housing loan from some other corporations, then he can also make sure that the deduction can happen from his salary. Deduction of income tax payable by employees. This is one of the statutory requirement. Any amount, the tax amount, income tax employee payable, so that can be deducted from employee and deposit in IT office. Okay, it is a duty of a employer. They have to deduct the tax from employee's salary and deposit in IT office. And then any court says, right, if any competent authority says that please deduct the salary from this particular employee, so that should be deducted. That is a permissible deducted. And any payment to cooperative societies. Any payments to cooperative societies. Apart from that, if there is an insurance purchased from an Indian post office, for that every year premium should be paid, so that can be deducted from salary. Other than that, if there is a LIC, Life Insurance Corporation insurance, or any other insurance from the trade union, or any payment to a professional bodies like ICAI, Indian Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, or a bar council for lawyers, for any amount payable to a membership for these bodies also can be deducted from salaries. And insurance premium on fidelity guarantee bonds and contribution to PM National Relief Fund. This is the most important thing, like in case of floods or epidemics, any kind of natural calamities, the PM may ask for a help, right? And ask for help and making a payments in PM National Relief Fund. In that case, with the consent of the employee, employer can deduct that amount and deposit to PM National Relief Fund. These all are the permissible deduction. Apart from this, employer should not deduct anything extra. Okay. In the case of Hill Plantation Workers Union versus Annamalai Planters Association, it was held that whatever the list is given is a list, it is an exhaustive list, okay, or it is a permissible list. Okay, it is not necessary that every employer should deduct all these things. If there is a loan, then they will deduct a loan EMI. If there is a PM National Relief Fund request and employee agrees, then only they have to deduct it. It is not an obligation on employer to deduct all these things. If it requires and employee agrees, then only this deduction should be done. Okay, so it is not an obligatory list, it is a permissible list, but there should not be any other deduction other than this. Question comes like, if we have, can employer deduct all the amount of a salary as a deductions because of all the above reasons whatever we mentioned? No. The permissible limit is 50% of the wages. 50% of the wages can be deducted only, not more than that. If the deduction is for cooperative society payments, then it can go up to 75%. Otherwise 50%. That's it. Okay. 7.1 talks of section 7.1 talks about what is applicable deduction and other things. 7.2 talks about kind of deduction. Section 7.3 talks about limit on deductions. Okay. Let's discuss few items of a deductions in detail. The first one is on a fines. Can employer deduct everything, anything in the form of fine without giving any notice? No. Employer should properly mention that there should be an exhibit which clearly says that for doing X activity, this is a fine. Breaking a laptop, okay, this is a fine amount. Okay, all these things should be clearly exhibited, okay, in the prescribed manner in the premises. So employees should be known that, okay, if he commits this mistake, this is what is going to be a fine. So there should be a proper exhibit. And if any mistake happens from an employee side, he should be given an opportunity to put his viewpoint. He should be given an opportunity to put his viewpoint. So this is not like employer says, okay, we deduct 5,000 because you did this mistake. No, right? The employee also should be given a chance to put his viewpoint. And to apply this particular kind of deduction, employee should be of more than 15 years of age. If there is a child labor, then there should not be any deduction. And what is the limit for deduction in form of fines? It should not be more than 3% of the wage payable in the respective period. So employer should not deduct more than 3% of the wage payable. Okay, if the salary is 10,000, in that case the total deduction should not be more than 300 rupees. Agreed? Okay, understood? And every fine shall be deemed to have imposed on the day of the act. Okay, very simple line here. Every fine should be imposed on the day of the act. If he commits that mistake on 5th of July, so the fine will be on 5th of July. And for this, they have to maintain proper register in the prescribed format according to the Payment of Wages Act 1936. So they have to maintain a prescribed register and record all the fines collected, from whom they have collected, date, what is the amount, reason for collection, everything they have to maintain it. Clear, guys? On a fine side, the fine should be properly exhibited and prescribed. When the fine is levied on employee, employee should be given opportunity to put his viewpoints. Employee age should not be more than 15 years and the amount of fine should not exceed 3% of the wages, and fine shall be deemed to be imposed on the day of the act, and finally there should be a register for this. Clear? Okay. Moving to next point, deductions for absence from duty. Deductions for absence from duty. It is in every employment agreement, employees' working hours are fixed, right? Working hour is generally 9 to 5, okay? And then there will be a leaves for sick leave, earned leave, privilege leave, etc. There are many leaves, and then there will be a holidays, minimum 10 to 11 holidays. National holidays, and then some festival holidays put together 10 to 12. So apart from this, if employee is absent on a working day, then employer can deduct salary for that. Okay, if it is a 10th May, it is a working day, and then if employee is absent on this particular day, this may be for a whole day from 9 to 5, or maybe a part 9 to 1 he was not there in office, 1 to 5 is there. So based on that, on a pro rata basis, the salary should be deducted. Okay, in case of a where it is a part of the day, the salary should be deducted on a pro rata basis. If it is for a whole day absent, then the whole day salary can be deducted. Here are a few points on that. Absent to work because of some public transport strike. This is not allowed. Okay, if a person is absent, it is a employee's action, like it is a employee's responsibility to come to office. If there is a public transport strike, he should make his own arrangement. So the deduction is permissible here. Okay, the deduction is permissible. If he is a delay by number of a few hours, then on pro rata basis salary can be deducted. And second one, deduction should be only for voluntary absent. Okay, if employee is absent because of his reasons, then only this deduction can happen. For example, during COVID situation, where we are now, right? Employee is ready to go to office. But employer says, don't come, right? In this case, it is not a voluntary absence from employee side. So employer should not deduct any salaries, any wages. Employer can deduct only for a voluntary absent, but not involuntary absent. Hope you guys clear about deduction for absence from duty. Let's look into a new other section, section 10, deduction for damages or loss. We discussed this earlier. The deduction for the damages or loss should not exceed or a fine 3% of the salary, and there should be a register for this. And remember that this damage or should be directly attributable to an employee. Whatever has happened, if the laptop is given to me, right, then it is very clear. If the laptop of a Mr. X which broke down, it cannot be put it on Mr. Y. Okay. If it is any action, if it is attributable to an employee's act, then only it should be deducted. Before doing that, the chance should be given to employee to explain his justification. So then what is the goods here? The goods means whatever the definition given in Sale of Goods Act of 1930. So whatever the goods definition given in Sale of Goods Act holds good here. What does sale of goods says about goods? Goods means all movable properties. Okay, all movable properties, including standing crops, right, timber, etc. Right. This is the definition of goods under Sale of Goods Act. So you can refer Sale of Goods Act definition for a goods. So that holds good in Payment of Wages Act also. So goods includes all movable properties, which including standing crops, timbers, and etc. Okay, and the deduction also should not exceed the total damage. If the laptop is costing 30,000, then you cannot deduct 50,000 from employee's salary. So it should be always a cost of the product. This is about deductions with respect to damages or loss. Deductions for services. Okay, as we discussed earlier, if a company has given accommodation, so then that can be deducted, and even amenities like water, electricity. If a company is supplying water and then electricity, then that also can be deducted. But it does not include tools supplied. The same example I'm saying here, a laptop, right? Why this laptop given to employee? To work. So if any tool is given to employee for the work, for an employment purpose, then employer should not deduct any amount. Okay. So laptop expenses should not be deducted, but water, electricity, etc., which was given, then that should be deducted. Then deduction for recovery of advances. Deduction for recovery of advances. Advances given to employee before joining the job. So advances, right? Sometime employee while he is in Bombay, as he is in Mumbai, and he gets job in Bangalore. So he may ask some advances for shifting from Mumbai to Bangalore. So it is before joining the job. This can be deducted after joining the job. And advance given to employee after employment. Okay, so any advance given to employee after employment, right? So the before joining, whatever is given, that can be deducted after joining to an employment. So after employment also, if there is some advances required to employee, that can be given by employer and can be deducted from a salary. And then there is a wage advances. As I said, salary advances paid to employee, that also can be deducted. And then in some cases, instead of making a payment of a 10,000 salary, if employer made by mistake 11,000. So in the next month's salary, this 1,000 can be deducted. Remember, any adjustments of a overpayment of wages is also permitted. Okay, overpayment of salary will be considered as an advance and that can be deducted from a next month's salary. But there is no provision that whether it should be deducted in the next month only or it should be deducted in 4 to 5 installment or EMI. There is no such provisions in the law. Okay, this was held in MG Koshi versus ED Cotton Mill case. Okay, the deductions can be made, but when to make it, how to make it is all discretionary. Okay guys, this is all about Payment of Wages Act. We discussed in detail the definitions in the first video, and then what are the rules related to payments of wages, and then finally to conclude permissible deductions from a Payment of Wages Act. Thank you very much. Please let me know if let us know in the comment if any additional information needed. We are happy to help you on that. Thank you so much.